Hey there, fellow fans! This is a fan with too much time, and this time I really did not have enough time. So you'll probably notice in this video that I had to choose between getting the video out on time and doing all of the normal smaller sound effects that I try to get in. This is actually the inverse of what I had demonstrated earlier when I came back, which is basically just that if I make really long videos like this one, where they're getting around an hour long just in like the video content itself before the after talk, then it becomes extremely difficult for me to actually like edit the whole thing properly, write it and make sure that it's the way I like it, and then also voice it, edit it together, find music that I think works, and then put in all the little sound effects, because, like, believe it or not, that's a sort of meticulous thing you have to do, so it does take some time. So unfortunately this time I couldn't get it done. I actually could go in and pop in a few more right this moment. The reason I'm not is just because I think that it would be more jarring to have a video where half the video, or even not even half, like more like a quarter or a fifth of the video has some sound effects in it, and the rest doesn't, because I think that will kind of draw your attention to when they're not around. So that's why I've opted not to, because I don't think that I can cover this video with the time I have left with that. But in any case, moving on from that, let's go ahead and do the Q&A. So I'm just going to go ahead and go straight to my video. In the last one, I'm going to go to the comments. I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom, and I'm just going to start reading them as I get to them until we reach a time that I am satisfied for the time we spent today. And that's about as fair as I can try to be on a thing like this without that much preparation. I thought that I would have a bit more preparation for this, but you know what? What ended up happening was just that this video I needed a lot of editing. I didn't have to rewrite the whole thing, but I did have to edit it extensively. I don't know, sometimes you go to write and what you produce isn't, you know, conceptually bad. It just is full of writing errors and redundant words, and honestly sometimes it takes me longer to do that editing than it actually takes me to to actually write the thing. But I'm sorry, I'm rambling. Let's go ahead and start looking for some of these Q&As. So let's see here. First Q&A I see here. Let me see. So how long will the siege of the planet take? I see that we got Michael, and by the way, I know you guys hear this from every single person that goes on a microphone that reads anybody's names out on freaking anything, but yeah, I'm gonna mispronounce your names. I'm very sorry about that.
Me too. I'm very sorry. I also do that, you know. I try to pronounce the names correctly, but sometimes I do get it wrong. And yeah, all I can do is just ask for your forgiveness, guys. Like, I'm sorry. Yeah.
It's not an insult. Don't take it as an insult. So we got, I think it's Michelle or Michael Salomon, and he's asking, how long will the siege of the planet takes? Okay, so there's a pretty good reason why I'm sinking my teeth so deeply into Axum. Because what you see here at Axum is this. Excuse me. I just finished voicing all this and editing it, so my voice is wavering. What you see at Axum is this. At Axum, you have a sort of unsanctioned Republic force and a relatively tiny fraction of the Imperial force. It's sort of like taster platter. So what you're seeing happening on Axum is a microcosm of many, many of the battles you will see in Season 2. But in Season 2, I don't intend to go this in-depth. In Season 2, what you're mostly going to see during these battles, as opposed to seeing, like, basically the entire battle playing out phase by phase, chunk by chunk, as you are seeing here on Axum, what you're going to see in the other battles is more like flashpoints. Points of extreme interest where the battle is being decided in the moment, or where the domino that will decide the battle in the moment is getting knocked over in the now. So a big thing about Axum here is that you're gonna really want to look at Axum for a lot of dynamics, and that isn't to say that you see Jedi beat Imperial Guardsmen forces on Axum, and therefore whenever you see Imperial Guard forces fight Jedi, they lose. That's not what I mean by dynamics. All I mean to say is, as you're watching the flashpoints in the future, remember that this amount of stuff, if not more, if not much more, is occurring in the background of everything that is happening. While these flashpoints are happening, you have Jedi doing this, these guys doing that, ambitions playing out, the Inquisition moving in the shadows, the Jedi having their own internal struggles with the dark side, and even if I don't go out of my way to illustrate those things as the key points in the scene, a big reason why you're getting such an incredibly detailed breakdown of the Battle of Axum is because, one, it's small enough scale that I can do that. Because if this were a full-fledged battle between an actual hardcore organizational slugfest between the Republic and the Imperium, well, I mean, first of all, I think we know how that would go down, but even if we want to give the Republic a hard benefit of the doubt at this stage in the war, before they've really adapted much more to the Imperium, my overall point over who wins or who loses is simply that it takes a very long time. That it takes much longer than what you're seeing here. You're going to have Titans deployed in a full slugfest. How does the Republic counter Titans? They don't have any war machines that can really do that. Well, I'll tell you how they counter Titans. They either fly capital ships down into the atmosphere like we've seen them do with Venators and try to blast them with hardcore actual capital ships, which of course the Titans can fire back at. But what is also more likely is that you have Jedi move slowly to get in through the void shielding, or find gaps in the void shielding, and do as other factions have done, and actually, as opposed to fight the Titan as a war unit, infiltrate it as an actual facility and begin disabling key components or even killing the princeps in control of it, which of course should either deactivate the Titan or send it way out of control, which would be good for the Republic in most cases in either direction. So, all of that rambling just to say, yes, I do recognize the siege of Axum, or rather the counter-invasion of Axum is taking a long time. Savor it, because you won't get a lot of battles or places like Axum from here on out. In fact, you may only ever get a full, almost full, rather, because I can never really make a full, detailed accounting of the entire thing, but Axum is going to be one of the most fully comprehensive battles in this war you're going to be overseeing, that you get to see so many stages of. Almost every single active commander everywhere on this battle is being shown to you in some capacity, and you won't always get that in the flashpoints that are to come.
So essentially, Axiom is like the blueprint of how you guys would perceive future battles would also look like, on different planets or in space or stuff like that. Axiom is that blueprint. And, like AFanWithTooMuchTime has just said that, he won't be really focusing as in detail or as in depth with other future battles, like in Season 2, like he has said. But after what has happened on Axiom, you will have a sense about what's happening on other planets and, in space and, in other various theaters of battle. So he'll be cutting out all of that stuff and just heading directly to what's important for that particular episode in Season 2 or Season 1. So yeah, I think I understood what he said there. And yeah, it's okay.
And when you do get it, it will be certainly TLDR'd in a way that this battle is not. But since this is the first real full fang-in military engagement that the Jedi are launching against the Imperium, I really do want you to get a full sense of that. So that is the reason why. Let me see here, and it goes on. And by the way, all Inquisitors are all powerful? Seriously? Have you read Inquisitor? Well, okay.
Yes, all Inquisitors are powerful. They may not be powerful physically, you know, like they may not be super strong, or they may not have warp capable abilities, right? But you know, under the Imperium of Man's bureaucracy, they are extremely powerful. The things that they can do, the doors they're able to open, the type of authority they have in the Imperium of Man, you know, and the close proximity they are to the Emperor of Mankind, the God Emperor of Mankind. These guys are extremely powerful. So, yes, you will find that there are some Inquisitors that are like, you know, very weakly looking, you know, physically they may not look like they're imposing or they have the most powerful weapons and stuff like that, but rest assured, whatever they say goes, and they have the power to, you know, exterminate an entire planet. You know, they have that ability, they have that authority. So these guys are powerful. Yeah. Expand your mind in understanding what does power mean. It's not always physical, you know, energy or different types of weapons or using the warp. No, power can also mean political, economic, social, you know, governmental power, and that's what the Inquisitors have. Yeah.
That's not what I mean by all Inquisitors are powerful. I mean all Inquisitors are powerful because they're organizationally powerful. Any man who can order an army of anything to shoot you on the spot more or less without question is powerful. Now, you can argue the degree of power or how powerful that is relative to other people, but it's gonna be a really freaking weird argument for me if you try to argue to me that any given Inquisitor isn't powerful. I mean,
Exactly.
yeah, situationally, if you have an Inquisitor beaten and chained up somewhere where he can't exert his authority, then yeah, he's less powerful. But that's like how you have to keep a lion in a cage, you know? I mean, were you not doing that, it would tear you apart. Were you not keeping the Inquisitor separate from his power system, he would have you destroyed by it. So that's what I mean by all Inquisitors are powerful. I don't mean to say that all Inquisitors are statistically on the battlefield have good stats and can fuck you up powerful. In fact, a fair amount of Inquisitors are not like that. A fair amount of Inquisitors are like, not desk Inquisitors per se, but are certainly less combat-oriented, more organizational, internal, like, you know, military police-oriented. But enough about that. So, moving on to the next one. Let's see here. For the Q&A, when the Sisters of Battle denied the Jedi's Force power by channeling the Emperor, did the other Jedi sense it? No, they did not sense it. And as for why they didn't sense it, there's a few reasons. First of all, things have to be pretty big for the Jedi to just sense them in general. And that was really just the negation of a single Force push. While it was the Emperor who did it, the Emperor could do that and sort of hold back to not give it away. And that wasn't really what was happening here. It's more the case that for the Emperor to actually exert that ability, just deny the witch, basically. You know, it's a bit more than that, but just deny the witch more or less in effect on Shakti. For him to exert that from across time and space, because the Emperor that you're seeing manifested there is not the Emperor that currently exists in the Milky Way galaxy, who is like some kind of caveman. The Emperor that you saw come through with Sister Rejulia in her final moments was our Emperor, the Emperor from the 40K universe. You have to remember that even if faith powers are not the same as warp powers, they intersect with warp powers. And what does the warp intersect with? Frickin' everything. What is the warp? The warp is insanity, and a big part of the way that insanity manifests in the canon many times is by fucking with time and space. So,
You know, oh, sorry, I finished too much time. I was just thinking about, you know, the Emperor Palpatine, and you know how he has been keeping himself hidden from the Jedi, and the Jedi have been none the wiser. in terms of detecting that, the Supreme Chancellor is a Sith Lord. They had no idea, and he has been using his abilities very subtly, very, covertly, orchestrating things, becoming the puppeteer of the Galactic Republic as well as the Jedi this whole entire time, and they were none the wiser of it. So just like here with what happened with Rejulia and Shakti when the Emperor was coming in and denying Shakti, none of them would be able to detect that the Emperor was there and he was doing all of these things. So I'm not really surprised that the Jedi, didn't notice that, there was a powerful entity or a being that was in their vicinity. Just like with what AFanWithTooMuchTime just said, that, they would only be able to detect something once it exerts a lot of power. Yeah. So I agree with what AFanWithTooMuchTime is saying. Yes. Okay, let's continue.
So the Emperor can use the psychic element of his own nature to transcend time and space and reach out to the sisters here. That being said, as I mentioned before, it's very, very difficult. And no, again, for the finality, it is certainly not the Emperor from the current, right now, Milky Way galaxy, which, from the context of the statements in Star Wars, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, it tells you that when Star Wars is happening with all of its advanced technology, we, over here in the Milky Way galaxy, which is not the same as the Star Wars galaxy and are supposed to exist in parallel, are not, we're like in the ancient times. Maybe it's medieval times, maybe it's as far back as ancient Egypt, maybe it's as far back as caveman times. A long time ago isn't very defined, but what is known is that it's in the past. That's why you hear me say time travel. I don't mean that there's going to be time travel in the narrative per se. I mean literally just for the Warhammer 40K universe people to have gone to the Star Wars universe literally dictates time travel. I mean, even if I put them in an entirely different universe where there are literally no Chaos Gods in the Milky Way universe, and it's literally our universe over there with no force powers and nothing, and there's no Emperor or anything, it still means they time traveled. It doesn't matter how you spin that. They exist in our soul system and stuff, just in an alternate fictional universe of it, and so they would still recognize the Milky Way galaxy of the Star Wars universe as their Milky Way galaxy, just extremely primitive and far back. And I guess if we put it out of the 40K universe, like lacking in Eldar and Orcs, which they'd be like, wow, that's fucking awesome, but whatever. So that aside, let me see here. Are the Space Marines recruiting either from the colonists they brought with them or former Republic citizens? Both. Both. The Skywatch, and I'll probably detail this later in a post, but the Skywatch have a very, 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 very specific set of requirements they need to fill out for their recruits. And these requirements make their recruits extremely hard to source. The precise requirements I'll probably go into in the future at some point, but what you need to know is just this. The like quote-unquote librarians of the Skywatch, they have a totally different title, which is a bit more menacing perhaps than what it actually is, but they are the ones who actually pick out the recruits for the Skywatch, and they do so based on a bunch of esoteric mumbo-jumbo that they use to figure out if it's going to be a good fit for the chapter. The problem is that they're very, very picky-choosy, much more than other chapters, which is another reason why the Skywatch try very hard not to lose Marines and to act as a larger organization and to risk less. Because the recruitment is such that they can't really handle a sustained bleed of recruits. It would be too much for them to make up for that. They don't have the organizational capacity and help from the Imperium to make up for that, given their extremely strict requirements, which again doesn't really provide necessarily a better quality Marine, just a Marine that would be a good fit for the Skywatch.
Yeah, I'm just wondering about the recruits coming from the Star Wars galaxy side of things, because humans from the Star Wars galaxy are different from the humans of the Warhammer 40K or the Imperium of Man. Where the Imperium of Man revere the Astartes as if they were demigods. They worship them, they love them, they fear them. And anyone who is chosen to become a recruit, to become part of a particular chapter, it's considered to be a great honor. It's considered to be something amazing. But now when you see it in the perspective of a Star Wars galaxy, human, they just see these guys as oppressors. They see these guys as monsters coming out here, abducting their children. I'm assuming, the librarians are taking them at a young age. They're not taking like young adults or people who are already old. Taking these children, abducting these children, and I'm sure many of these humans from the Star Wars side are very rebellious. They're fighting back against these people who are trying to indoctrinate them into their chapter. And yeah, it must be difficult for them to try and control these humans from the Star Wars galaxy. So yeah, it's interesting that they're acquiring humans also from the Star Wars side. I thought maybe they would just stick with the humans from the Imperium of Man side, but maybe because there aren't many humans in the Imperium of Man that they can just pick from, and like AFanWithTooMuchTime just said, that the librarians have a very stringent requirements about who can be chosen to become a recruit. So the humanity in the Star Wars side are in the billions or maybe even in the trillions. So there's a lot of choice. There's a lot of human capital that they can acquire. So yeah, interesting.
But the answer to that is both. And the reason both is because the Skywatch are always strapped for recruits, so they're going to look for them everywhere if they can get them, if they fit the requirements. Any chance that we might get some Chaos Genestealer cults or Orc Spore stowaways? I'm not going to speak on the Orcs yet. I'm still figuring if and where they fit. Again, if and where. Because the Orcs are a lot of fun, but they are also just a menace. So, let me see here. As for Chaos Genestealer cults, we will see. We will see. You already know Genestealers are hovering around somewhere in this universe, so you already know that Genestealer cults are going to be a thing. I won't really make a commitment one way or the other on Chaos Genestealer cults at this time. So, let's keep rolling it up.
Yeah, I think I've discussed about this before. I'm quite satisfied with Star Wars versus the Imperium of Man, or should I say the Galactic Republic and the Separatists versus the Imperium of Man. I'm very satisfied with that. Adding other factions into the story, I don't know, because some of them are very overpowering. Like the Orcs, or if Genestealer cults are here, eventually that would lead to Tyranids also coming here too. So yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know. Because like I said before, I'm quite satisfied with the Imperium of Man and the Galactic Republic fighting each other. I find that quite enjoyable. But we'll see with what AFanWithTooMuchTime does in the future episodes. I'm just saying that I'm okay with how it is right now. Yeah.
And I'll go ahead and do maybe 2 more at this rate, because dang, I take a lot of time with each of these. But hey, it means we get good mileage out of these Q&As. So let's keep going. Let me see here. Q&A. What if the Inquisitors? Oh, let me see here. Okay, so
Hear me all right?
I'm sorry. The last Q&A that I read was from a guy called Richard Korn. That was easy to read. All right, Richard Korn, there's your Q&A. Let's keep going up. Q&A is from Meister Hyperion. Are we going to see Chaos fighting the Separatists? Do you think the Republic would survive the Tyranids invading their galaxy? Okay, so let's start with the first one. Are we going to see Chaos fighting the Separatists? Now, in general, I don't really want to give away what people are or aren't going to be fighting, because who knows? Maybe the Separatists will fight Chaos or whatnot. But as you can see, Chaos doesn't really have a very strong foothold in the galaxy, nor a particularly strong incentive to start fighting the Separatists over any other particular faction. So that's kind of where I'll leave that. Do I think the Republic would survive the Tyranids invading their galaxy? I think they could, actually, but I don't think they would survive it by fighting them off, because they just couldn't do that. The Republic isn't really made for that. The thing is that in Star Wars, there's a lot of other stuff aside from hardcore weapons that is extremely advanced and technologically and they're really helped by the fact that they're like a federation of so many alien species that you can actually have alien species that are not really all that advanced in other things, but in this one thing they've made these incredible advances, and you can take that and combine it with other things that are in canon to basically, if you wanted to, just create incredibly insane technologies. And the question then is like, okay, how desperate is the Star Wars universe? Because it could be that they're down to like 10% of their habitable planets and they still turn this around if they get like a crazy photonic force generator that disrupts the hive mind or lets them control Tyranids of their own. I mean, there really is no limit to what you can do in Star Wars. And I think that one...
I agree. I agree with him when he said that, you know, there are different races out there in the Star Wars galaxy that are advanced in certain sectors of scientific, you know, evolution and development. I mean, just look at the what do you call them again? Kinomic. You know, the people who make the clones. Yes, I forgot how to pronounce their name. Yeah, but how their technology is solely focused on the development of cloning technology. You know, how they became the premier species in the galaxy, creating, you know, advanced, very, you know, cost-effective clones that the Galactic Republic has been using against the Separatists and their droid army. You know, they are well known for their cloning technology. The Kinomians. I'm sorry, guys, I don't know how to pronounce their name. But yeah, so like with what AFanWithTooMuchTime has been saying, like there are different races or species in the galaxy that have excelled in different types of technology. And if you would pull all of that knowledge together, I'm sure the Star Wars side would be able to figure out a way to neutralize the Tyranid forces. It's possible. It's possible. But I'm still saying that, you know, they are very powerful, very overpowering, considering that, you know, the Tyranids, you know, the entire mass of the Tyranids is far larger than even the Milky Way galaxy in the Warhammer 40K. So you can imagine if the Tyranids were invading the Star Wars galaxy, like just the sheer numbers upon numbers of Tyranids coming into this galaxy, I think they would overwhelm them. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. It's possible, but it will be a very close shave. Yeah.
One of the best examples of that would have to be the Rakghoul Plague and then the Rakghoul Cure that comes after it. Because the Rakghoul Plague is a non-microbial, but still extremely, it acts in the exact same way as any microbial infection or disease or virus, but it's not. It's not microbial. It's magical. It's a a plague that is magical in nature. It's spread from one person to the other like a zombie plague is, usually through like scratching and biting. And it turns you into this horrible monster, physiologically completely fucking changes you 100% from the everything down. And no matter what race you are, you turn into the exact same thing. It's like a much better version. No, not even better, because it functions as a very different function. But it's like a gene stealer plague, which like on crack, because everyone turns into a freaking pure strain gene stealer, and they do it very quickly, and they can morphologically become bigger or smaller or more intelligent, like of these quote-unquote gene stealers, the rat ghouls. So it's a really insane virus, and it spreads very quickly, and it can even become airborne, quote-unquote airborne, because it comes from this talisman called the Mirror Talisman. And the Mirror Talisman was made by the Sith Lord, who was trying to conquer the universe with these armies of rat ghouls that would he turned the whole universe into his slaves of the same race. He got defeated, obviously. The point is that if you're wearing the Mirror Talisman and you can actually control it, then you can basically just turn people into rat ghouls on sight or more. So, especially if you're a master of the dark side. So, how did they stop that? Oh, what did the Jedi do? Did they purify the? No, the Jedi didn't do anything. I mean, the Jedi killed they killed Lord Darth Mirror or whatever the guy's name was that made the Mirror Talisman. But the person who really took care of the rat ghoul was just some unnamed scientist, or maybe even a scientist in KOTOR. I forget who it is. No, because I think that the rat ghoul plague had already been cured by the time that KOTOR starts. It's hard to. It's not hard either. It's expensive, relatively speaking, to synthesize a cure, so poor people at the bottom of Taurus can't get it. But the plague is under control because the plague has been cured. So you're asking, okay, how has it been cured? Like I said, some scientist somewhere cured it. There might be a story for it. That would be a part of Legends that I'm not familiar with. But from what I understand, and I'm totally open to being wrong about this, but they scientifically cured the rat ghoul magic plague. Okay, so that's the kind of universe that we have, and that's not the only
scientifically, magically
example of this happening, but it's one of the more dramatic examples where science, like quote-unquote science in Star Wars, can cure magic or warp abilities or stuff like that. So you see things like the Tyranids that are horrifying in the 40K galaxy, but it's almost like the 40K galaxy, even the Eldar, even some of the Necron stuff, like there are these weird rules in the 40K galaxy, like, okay, the Necrons are so advanced they can literally create a hologram of the universe and snuff out stars in it, and the actual star that it correlates to blows up. But they can't genetically augment the Tyranids to start eating each other, or create a new hive mind by causing a split, or anything like that. And it's just, that's totally fine for a Warhammer 40K. You can't have the factions invalidating each other like that. But what you do have in Star Wars is that kind of thing happen. Which is a big part of the reason why the only consistent warring factions in Star Wars are like the Republic, the Mandalorians, the Jedi, and the Sith. Because they're not really predicated on any particular thing. The Sith become legions of Sith, they become singular Sith, they become one giant Sith Lord that eats planets, they become a million Sith Lords that cover planets. Same thing with the Jedi. The Jedi can become singular, the Jedi can become powerful. The light side and the dark side aren't so invalid, or like they invalidate each other. It's like holy versus unholy, and so they just keep going back and forth. The Republic was the PS Dia at one time, and I'll remind you, the Republic never became the Imperium proper, because even though the PS Dia had infiltrated all levels of the government and was basically the Republic in its entirety, it was still a Republic, and it's called itself the Galactic Republic, and it's been around for so long no matter what shape it takes. So these are the things that are like that. These are the things that are that way in Star Wars. But anything too specific or too predicated on anything that is sort of, like I said, too specific, ends up getting cured in Star Wars. And another example of that is like Emperor Vitiate and the entire Eternal Empire. Why doesn't that sustain? Why doesn't that stick around? Why doesn't that? I'll tell you why, man. Emperor Vitiate is too specific, and the methods by which he uses to seize control and keep power and perpetuate power are too specific, and they get cured. They basically get cured. I mean, heck, even the Sith basically get cured. Like, how did we beat the Sith with power? I mean, okay, I know that people don't like The Last Jedi, and I don't you know, I mean, not The Last Jedi, my bad, Rise of Skywalker, both of them. I don't like them very much either, but they're canon. So, how does Palpatine ultimately die?
The sun in this game is so bright. Yeah. It's so distracting.
Both, in fact, in both renditions, like if you involve the sequels or not, he destroys himself. It's not because the Jedi are more powerful than the Sith. It's because the Jedi cure the Sith. And it's like straight up, the Jedi cure the Sith by using, not to be too cheesy, but love, friendship, like I mean, at least with Luke and his father, it was like love overcomes the power of the dark side. Not even the light side, but love itself. The love between a father and his son, and the wish to see the universe become better. And then there's the rise of Skywalker, where it's just a reflection of the Sith back. Like the Jedi have created, through all this amalgamation, a technique by combining into Rey for a moment that is basically just a hardcore force rebuke that shoots all this power right back into the guy, and it's done. And he kills himself, and that's how the Jedi beat the Sith without ever becoming more powerful than them or even really approaching that power level. As far as what we see Palpatine do, knocking entire fleets of what is conceivably hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of ships out of the sky.
One way or another, the Force will find a balance. You know, there can't be one part that is overwhelming the other. They will always have a balance being put out. Yeah, it's just a matter of time, essentially.
So yeah, there's that. So could the Republic survive a Tyranid invasion of the galaxy? I think so. It's definitely possible, but they wouldn't survive it by fighting it off. That's certainly not the form that survival would take. Moving along. Alright, I forgot this question. Oh, my bad. I'm gonna say this again. I don't know if I said it before, but Meister Hyperion, those were your questions. So now going up. Spook! Ah, Spook! Alright, let's see, Spook. Good old Spook. I forgot to put this question in the original question dump. I didn't see your original question dump. Let me see here, and it may fall under the 13th question I asked. What are the number of Primaris Marines and Firstborn Marines? All of the Marines that you see present here are Firstborn. This is happening just as Guilliman is getting the Indominus Crusade kicked up and off the ground, and he hasn't even really launched the Indominus Crusade as of that moment when all this is going down. He's still making the call to gather the forces for the Indominus Crusade.
You know, I still don't really know what is so different between the first generation Astartes and the second generation, the Primaris Astartes. I still don't know what makes them so special compared to the first generation. You know, are they faster? Are they stronger? Are they more accurate? Are their emotions far more suppressed? Like, what makes them different? Yeah.
So they have not received their Primaris reinforcements. Will Primaris Marines make an appearance in Warhammer 40K versus Star Wars? Maybe, but probably not. And the reason mostly for that is I'm trying to limit the interdimensional travel from the Star Wars universe to the 40K universe, like, you know, to just very specific events. And more than that, to be totally honest, because I've started making this series, it eats up a lot of the free time I would normally use reading. And so in recent times, I've begun to fall behind in the more modern Warhammer 40K canon. And because I've begun to fall behind, I am not really extremely well acquainted with the capabilities of the Primaris. I understand that they have like a brief Wolverine ability where they can regenerate really fast from certain things, but I don't yet have a spread of data points in the very loose canon that is 40K that makes me feel very confident riding the capabilities of the Primaris, at least as of the moment of when I started the series. Also, when I actually had started writing the drafts and everything for Warhammer vs 40K, it was as 8th edition was kind of like ending and 9th edition was getting teased, and I didn't know that the Primaris were really going to be a thing like they are. I had actually imagined that Primaris was just going to be a new rollout of armor and stuff to help redraft up the proportions for Space Marines that have always been a little bit wonky. We in the Warhammer 40K community kind of are aware of and either uncomfortable or profoundly uncomfortable with the fact that our Space Marine proportions have always been a little wonky until the Primaris came along. But as for actual Primaris, to answer that question, currently there are none. All the Space Marines you see are firstborn Space Marines. They are all that way. And for Star Wars fans listening on this, what this means is just that there are like new Space Marines that are even scarier, and there are the older Space Marines where all the legends have been made out of. We're using the older Space Marines for this. So, that was Spook. Good to have you, Spook. Let's see, some guy camping. I hope you have marshmallows. Let's see. Will there be any side stories outside the main episodes that are basically one-off short mini-stories that are a little slice of life or thoughts of a more civilian point of view of the conflict?
That's a good question.
Maybe. If I feel the urge to do such a thing or the merit in it, if I see that and I feel it, then most certainly yes. If I don't, then probably not. Another question. How many Jedi Masters have been absolutely brutalized? How many do you have left? Will you make original Masters if you run out of... Okay, so there's a lot of Jedi Masters in the canon. Like a lot. Like literally some of them are just names on, like, crossed off names on dead posters for, like, Order 66 people. But we have a lot of Jedi Masters, at least in names, if nothing else, to use. So I don't predict that I'll start running out. I do predict that I will make my own Jedi Masters because I would like to make my own characters to fit certain roles and not... maybe try to force square pegs into round holes, and instead just make a character for that. The same way I did for Ren-Fi and for Gaffin.
Oh, don't bring up those names. That poor boy. He fought to the bitter end.
That being said, how many Jedi Masters have been absolutely brutalized? About a handful. The Imperium is extremely aware of every single Jedi that they kill, and they do take pains to bring them in, because the Imperium is extremely concerned with, well, with everything. Because the galaxy, while it's actually not as bad as the Warhammer 40K galaxy it's like if you were in the Warhammer 40K galaxy and you jumped in after a huge time skip or something, right? And you found suddenly that the galaxy was ruled by a quote-unquote republic that had an army of slave human clones. Like, if you saw that in Warhammer, it would be really grim and bad for the humans and really terrible for everyone involved. And it would just be masking a horrible thing. And so, right now, the Imperium is trying to unmask and understand the horrible thing that they have no doubt is there. And so, because of that, every time they kill a Jedi Master, they take them in, they begin experimenting on them. Well, not experimenting. They perform very detailed autopsies on their corpses. And so, what do you get out of this? Well, what they learn from this is this very quickly. Like, Ki-Adi-Mundi was not a mutant. You know, that was a thing that they thought he may be. No, he wasn't a mutant. He was an alien. It's very clear that he's an alien. That being said, he's an alien that looks really human and has, like, human sexual organs and human biology in a lot of places and a lot of analogous human, like, everything. So it's just, like, a lot. Like, they're just, you know, naked. The guy looks more like a mutant than like a human, just a really symmetrical mutant. So they keep finding this. And I'll say this. How many Jedi have been killed in the current canon? It's going to be in the realm of about, I mean, before the Battle of Axum, it's going to be in the realm of about 7. About 7 Jedi had been killed and recovered by the various forces of the Imperium. Not that much, yeah, because Axum...
He means masters, right? Jedi masters, because I can't remember the episode, but I think it was Anakin who said like 27 Jedi's died on I think on Axis, or was it Axiom, when they had to retreat. So yeah, like regular Jedis, 27 of them died, and then the Master Jedis, around 7, where he's saying, around 7 of them have died. I think that's what he means. Yeah, if I'm wrong, guys, correct me in the comment section.
You have to remember that until Axum and Anaxis really fell hard, not really even Anaxis. Anaxis they drove off because they didn't want them to use the Separatist bomb to blow up the planet. It wasn't until Axum, really, that the Republic understood that they were facing a very powerful and not situationally powerful force. So, they hadn't thrown all those Jedi into the defense of Axum. But they are throwing all these Jedi into the counter-invasion, and so you're going to see things go up. As far as how many Jedi Masters of the Librarian curve stop, you're going to have to wait for the Librarian to come out and show you what he's done, right? So there you go. I'm going to do one more. I'm trying so hard not to yawn, but I have literally been up for more than about 24 hours trying to finish this video, so it is a tax. These long videos are very hard to get out in 1 week, there's nothing to it more than that. But let me see here. Spook!
I appreciate your hard work, AFanWithTooMuchTime. I really do. Thank you.
Spook! There you are. There you are again. This is a very, very long one, Spook. My goodness. I would have thought this would have come before the last one. I thought these were in chronological order. Oh, whatever. Excuse me. Alright, let's see here. Quite a few questions. Let's just go for 2 maybe. Since you've confirmed that Genestealer cults will be a thing in the future, I have a few questions about them. Oh geez, so each of these questions are fold-out questions. Will the Genestealers pop up in Imperial Holdings, Tatooine Axum, or will they pop up and you're gonna have to wait to see that? I can't give that away yet. Will there be certain species who will give Genestealers an easier or harder time to? You're gonna have to see that. That's part of the fun of me writing it. So you're gonna have to wait for my execution of that concept. And the question regarding Genestealers. Will they lord over their own empires, similar to the Hutts and various gangs? Do they work in it? You're going to have to see the execution of that, too, because we don't actually... It's funny, because, and it could be the way that Genestealers operate is that they intentionally don't spread beyond the quote-unquote reach of the hive fleets, but we very rarely get examples of Genestealer cults that take over a planet, and then it isn't eaten the next day or the next week or extremely shortly after. It's like, all right, how long? What happens? How does a planet that is now officially under a Genestealer cult operate in the long term without being hiding? Because that's the other thing. Is sometimes you see a planet that has been taken over by a Genestealer cult, and what they do is they carry on almost like normal, with a few with a few noticeable differences, but they try to pretend, oh yeah, we're just an Imperial planet waiting to get snacked on, please go away. So it'll be interesting to see what they do if they're not like that, but you're gonna have to wait to see. Let's see here. Now on to the Dea cults that are also confirmed. Will they be created originally by the Republic's reaction to the Imperium, or will they be created artificially by missionaries? And that is gonna be both plus. So most of the quote-unquote PS Dea cults that you're going to see aren't even really PS Dea cults, because the PS Dea was so long ago that they don't actually call themselves like that, even if they even did originate as that, because a lot of the human cults you're going to see actually have no relation to the PS Dea at all. What they actually are different human supremacist movements from different planets. Every single planet with a large enough human population, or a population of any given species, will have supremacist movements of that species, unless they're an extremely specific kind of species. So there's lots of human supremacy in the galaxy, just because there's a lot of humans in the galaxy, but they, generally speaking, don't get a lot of traction without help, because it doesn't provide for itself. It doesn't lead to a lot of success, because it is simply a fact that in this galaxy, most of the time, near humans are superior to humans because they're just humans plus. How is a Twi'lek inferior to a human? Twi'leks literally just have more memory capacity. Oh, well, we enslave them a lot. Yeah, that's sort of an artificial thing, isn't it? So there you go. So, but on to the thing I was trying to say is that, so where are these human supremacist factions coming from? Well, Palpatine has spent the last few decades grooming them and bringing them to power, especially in the core worlds. He's really emphasized this human high culture thing, and while he as Palpatine hasn't openly endorsed it, he secretly has, and Damask Holdings has certainly done so, which the fact that Damask Holdings is an alien organization has really allowed it to get into places and spread this ideology where it really shouldn't be spread. So, because of all this prep work that Palpatine has been doing to get the galaxy ready for his human-dominant empire, he has unwittingly sowed the seeds for the Imperium's power base. In addition, there will be converts when people see how powerful the Imperium is. They'll be like, oh, well, I guess humanity was a whole lot more than I gave it credit for. I never really thought of myself as a human over anything else, but it looks like that's a valid way of thinking all of a sudden. And there will be some that are like that. And there will also be some that are artificially created by Imperial missionaries, because you better believe that there will be Imperial missionaries. There absolutely will be.
You know, as AFanWithTooMuchTime was just speaking about this, you know, these human supremacy groups starting to side with the Imperium of Man. You know, I'm just thinking in my head, these guys are in for a rude awakening. Because the moment they start joining forces with the Imperium of Man, thinking that, you know, it's going to be this human supremacy group that's going to bring about the betterment of humanity, they will be shocked. They will be shocked when they realize what this is truly all about. When they fully understand the Imperium of Man, that their culture, the way they do things, their technology, their faith is so different to what the lifestyles of humans are in the Star Wars galaxy. You know, they would consider them to be backward even. They would consider them to be backward. Just in the way they do things. It is just so alien, so different from the humans of the Star Wars galaxy. So these human supremacy groups, you know, whoever they are, yes, they will be used by the Imperium of Man, but I'm sure some people within these groups, they will realize that, no, guys, this is not what I thought I was joining. This is not who I thought I was following, because I can tell you now, the horror of the Imperium of Man has yet to fully show itself to these people. And yeah, when that time comes, when they finally, you know the truth of the Imperium of Man, they are in for a rude awakening. And it might be too late for them to try and, you know, get out of this human supremacy groups, you know, because by that time, either they'll be killed by their own colleagues, or they will be killed by the Imperium of Man, you know, considered as traitors, as heretics. And, you know, it's just going to be a very bad affair for many of these human supremacy groups, thinking that they've found their human messiahs. Yeah, it's a big mistake.
The forms and methods they take will be very unique to the Imperium, but they will certainly be there, and you will certainly see them. But you'll have to wait for the execution of those things. Will they be hunted down by the forces of the Republic, or will they simply hide away or even be ignored by the Republic? Ha 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 ha! You'll have to wait to see, but I can tell you this, they will be very hard to ignore. Will they be unified? No, they will not. But, they will eventually get unified by the Imperium, but they are not a unified cult. Will they act as scouts for the Imperium? They will act as many different things, and you'll have to wait to see. One thing you'll be very interested in seeing, I think many people will be very interested in seeing, is watching Republic scientists who are humans, who are not suddenly like, for the Emperor and all this, who defect over to the Imperium because they think it's the way to go, because they see the galaxy moving that way, who then suddenly have to deal with either becoming tech adepts, who have a ridiculous amount of restrictions in their access to technology and their ability to research and do anything like that.
They will be shocked. They will be shocked. And they will regret their decision. I can assure you about that. They will regret and they will be shocked.
Or they'll have to try to convert over into the priesthood of the Adeptus Mechanicus. Conversely, it will also be very interesting for a lot of you to watch, I think, how the Adeptus Mechanicus deals with both trying to parse out which technologies are good, which technologies are bad, which compromises can be made, and how to even accept an influx of an educated population that is this massive. Because
sorry, I just have to complete my thought process on this. And I'm just thinking about the lifestyle of those in the Star Wars galaxy. How they live with droids. How they coexist with virtual artificial intelligence, if I can say that, or rudimentary artificial intelligence. But even fully sentient robots, they live with these things. They work with these things. It's a part of their culture. It's a part of who they are, And now all of a sudden the Imperium of Man is going to be telling them, hey guys, this is heretical. This is evil. These things need to be destroyed. It's going to radically change and shift the way people live in the Star Wars galaxy. And I don't think these humans are going to be ready for something like that, Because, like I said before, the droids are in their lives. It's part of their life to have these machines being a part of their society. In every single Star Wars movie we have seen, in every single Star Wars content that we have seen, you will find the humans, you will find other xeno races, and of course you will find the astro droids or other versions of droids that help out the organic beings in the Star Wars galaxy. So yeah, it's going to be a very hard change for many of these people, and they're going to regret it. They're definitely going to regret it.
The Imperium simply isn't used to having something like this. This is the Schola Progenium is not a bad educational institution. It's also an enormous propaganda institution that just pumps you full of Imperial propaganda, but it also does teach you how to be competent and how to do stuff. And there are parallels to that, very powerful parallels in the Mechanicum, but those institutions are not prepared to hold a load like this, and the Imperium is used to dealing with people who are a lot more gullible and a lot more desperate for their message. So it's going to be interesting to see how they try to absorb even the willing human factions who go into the Imperium like, hey, all right, we're part of the human faction now, so where's my internet and the stuff I like? And they're like, internet? What, you think there's freedom of information in this? Oh, well, no, that's not how we do. And then there's going to be a problem. So you'll see. Of course, the Empire in Star Wars had ways of dealing with it too. They weren't as extreme as the Imperium, but the point is there are ways of dealing with it. There is going to be friction. You'll see. It'll be fun. Let me see. And I think that will be it for now, because I've gone on for quite a bit. I think this might be one of my longer after talks, aside from when I explained my entire opinion on Star Wars and whatnot. So I will go ahead and leave it here. And if I didn't get to your Q&A, which I saw there were so many, so I know that I didn't get to them all, fact of the matter, go ahead and repost them in this video. Go ahead and leave your Q&A questions in this video. Go ahead and copy and paste the last questions if I didn't get to them. Totally fine, because next time when I go in Q&A in the next video, in the next after talk, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take it from the bottom to the top as my little analytics page here shows me, and I'm just going to read them up as I can. Some I will answer, some I will not, and hopefully that can keep being a fun thing that we do. So, I've heard your guys' voices on the idea of voting for survival, and there's a little bit of division there, but mostly you guys do seem to be very much in the mindset that it is best if I choose who survives, who lives, and who dies, and you be left in the dark about that. And I'm kind of proud of you guys as a community, honestly, for that. 'Cause that's a ballsy thing to give as a fan to the creator that I know a lot of fans normally are all too eager to try to like have some influence in. So I honestly, you know, respect. I did not expect that sort of maturity from a populace of over 100 people, and so I am very, very, very surprised and happily so with that turnout. To the people who have been asking for more influence, I'll go ahead and say this, and this will be the last question I make on this should people have a vote and should not, and how people survive and whatnot. For those of you who play Warhammer, especially the tabletop RPG and stuff like that, you'll be aware that it works on a D100 system for the RPG. D100 just means that you roll percentage dice, and the percentage you roll is what determines the outcome of what happens. So what if I did this? I put up the little selection for you guys, but instead of the person with the most votes getting protection, what if they just take that percentage? You see what I'm saying? I'll go ahead now from the greatest to the least. I'll stack them in percentages, and then I roll a percentage dice and don't tell you guys who ended up getting the protection, which funny enough means that even the most unpopular person could get it, and that could be a thing. And again, the people I would put on this list are not like people who I have plans for, and who it would mess up my narrative for them to die or survive or whatever the case may be. They would be totally safe choices, because I'm definitely not into fucking with my story just for the shock value. This would be things that, by one method or another, I have things sort of covered. And, you know, if there was an unexpected choice, you guys like choose someone really unexpected to survive, I will go ahead and integrate their survival as a thing that adds to the narrative. Like, things will be different but added to, as opposed to being subtracted from. But that would be the sum total of the change I would allow from a decision like that to influence the what is already set in my head as what is good and gonna be fun to read. So go ahead and tell me what you think of that alternative idea. And if you guys still very much in the realm of letting me choose 100% and being 100% in surprise of it, or rather, because it'd still be a surprise in this case, but not having an influence on that, then this will be the last that you hear about it, and I'll let you know in the next video how that goes down. But with that being said, I want to wish you guys a very, very happy week. Hope it all goes extremely well for you. Enjoy the time that you have with your friends, your family, your loved ones. That time is precious. So definitely cherish it, even if at times we have so much of it in the moment that we take it for granted. You know, think of someone you love, give them a call, remind them. These are the things that are important. And until next time, this has been a fan with too much time, wishing you a very good time. Take care.
Yes. Okay. Alright guys, that's it with A Fan with Too Much Time. Yes, he was talking to us and also answering questions from viewers who have been asking questions about the story, how is it going to progress, you know, the potential of different enemies popping into the Star Wars galaxy, whether we're going to have the second generation of the Astartes also appearing in the galaxy, also asking whether we're going to have stories related to the civilians in the Star Wars galaxy, how they are dealing with the invasion of the Imperium of Man, and also us, you know, about the human supremacy groups that are going to be siding with the Imperium of Man, what they're going to be going through, you know, who created them, or should I say who has given them much more impetus, and that was Emperor Palpatine, or should I say the Supreme Chancellor. And yeah, many of the questions were very interesting and important to ask about, and yeah, all in all, it was a good discussion led by A Fan with Too Much Time. And yeah, episode 17 was also a good episode. And like I said before, I will open my mind to what Ahsoka is going through, what Ahsoka is saying, and what she believes in, and her path to not victory, but to understanding and to peace between the two factions. Maybe it will work in the end. We'll see whatever AFanWithTooMuchTime tries to make of it towards the end of his project. But right now, it's wartime, and I'm still bloodthirsty. I guess I can say that. But I will, be patient with Ahsoka and listen to what she has to say. And yeah, let's see what happens in next week, Thursday, with episode 18. Until then, guys, remember, if you want to check out the original video as well as AFanWithTooMuchTime's YouTube channel, the links are in the description below. If you like my reaction, please give me a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Click on the notification bell if you want to be up to date with my latest videos. And I will see you guys next time. Okay? Welcome to 2023. Happy New Year, guys.